Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vedyat Ravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Yata sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stitani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So who's chanting tonight? Mark, can you tell us where we are in our text?
We're on number 59 on page 336.
Are we getting close to the end?
Yeah. We have maybe a chapter more. 336 verse.
Tell us again the verse.
It's verse 59.
Idam me sti pati vijnanam yattat kalpanam uchyate arthasya bhavanam yattat kalpanatyaga uchyate. Let this be mine. Such knowledge is called imagination. Absence of the thought of any object is called the renunciation of imagination.
Yes. So this idea, again, it's subtle. At one level, we have to understand the flow of thought is not in and of itself problematic. Now, if we're very fortunate and we have those deep moments of meditation where the mind completely stops and the nature of the self is very evident. But the thought that gives us problems, this is mine, I'm a person, I, me, mine. This ankriti, this is the root of the mind. This is the thought that is problematic. This, in the sense, is the mind itself. By the subtle understanding of it, that Yoga Vasishtha is saying. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Smaranam vidhi sankalpam shivam asmaranam viduh sarve mevashu vismritya modhavat tishtha kashthavat. No memory as imagination. Absence of the limitations of memory is known as beatitude or bliss. Forgetting quite everything immediately, be like a stupefied person or a log of wood. Note, this does not refer to memory, loss of memory in common parlance. Perception without the taint of memory leads to the rise of pure consciousness without the distinction of the knower and the known.
So this is not ignorance, it's agnorance, agnosia, the deliberate practice of disempowering, unbelieving. Even if it's just a flash. And the pure nature of the self becomes evident. But if the mind then creates story, it does that because of memory, then it becomes problematic. Now, memory in and of itself, again, is not problematic. I cooked 3 artichokes this evening. I can remember that. That's not going to cause me to suffer. It's only when we get this jonesing. Jim, this issue. I need this, that, and the other. Or we go back and, oh, that person was so mean to me, or I was such a terrible person, I said such and such and so and so. Then it becomes wrong. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
Urdhvabahu urdhvabahu viromyevam na chakaschit shrunoti tat asankalpah param shreyah sakim antah na bhavyate. I cry thus, that is as mentioned above with raised hands. Nobody listens to that. Absence of imagination is the greatest good or felicity. Why is it not fostered within?
So, this asankalpa, this letting go of this jonesing imagination, is the greatest felicity. And the scriptures in so many ways thunder it. And it's so hard to remember to do it. To drop the mind. Next one.
Prishnim avasthite naiva paramam prapyate padam paramam yatra samrajyam apiramat pranayate. Rama, only by him who's remaining in silence, the supreme abode, where even the highest sovereignty is like straw, is reached.
So he's saying that if you have this pearl of great price, as the Master Jesus called it, this chintamani, the wish-fulfilling gem, meaning the greatest of all siddhis, is the peace that comes with knowledge of the self. If we have that, paltry things of this world, you hear me say it so many times, trinkets and balls. This text calls them pieces of colored glass. Even being the greatest sovereign is nothing. And again, that doesn't mean that the equipment will leave its dharma. Oh, I want to be realized. I want to be peaceful. Therefore, I'm going to quit my job, move to India, and live in a cave. So foul. I won't do it. Right where you are makes no difference. The only thing that we need to renounce is the mind itself. Next verse.
Bahunatra kimuktena sankshepa idamuchyate sankalpanam paro bandha tadabhavo vimuktata. What is the use of many words? That is, this is declared briefly thus: imagination is the greatest bondage. Its absence is the state of freedom.
And again, this word sankalpa, wish, will, intention, volition. Two ways to look at it. One, from the standpoint of nirvikalpa samadhi, stop the mind. But then, an even deeper understanding while moving in and through the world. I'm in the world, but not of it. I no longer take the movement of mind as real, and therefore it's not problematic. And the nature of the mind will change when we do that. Repeating again what Swamiji used to say, the way to heal the mind is get out of the mind. And the mind settles down. Its nature, its fundamental nature changes. In Gita, Krishna says, for the person in ignorance, the mind is the enemy. But for the person of wisdom, the mind is the friend. Next verse.
Avedanam vidu yogam chittakshayam akritimam yogastha kuru karmani vikarmani chama kuru akarmanirato madhu bandhasambhava shankaya. Non-perception, which is a spontaneous destruction of the mind or the thinking process, is known as yoga. Perform actions established in yoga and do not perform wrong actions which take one away from the fulfillment in the self. Don't be attached to inaction on account of doubt as to the production of that bondage.
Yes. So we don't want to take on the idea, oh, I don't want to do anything because I'm afraid of creating bad karma. Actions in and of themselves are not opposed to liberation. Ignorance is the problem. I do not see the self and the world as they truly are. I have a wrong view of things. That's the problem. And again, we go back to the three questions that this scripture over and over and over and over again invites us to consider. First and foremost, who am I? What's my essential nature? Brahman. What is this world? Brahman. How has it come about? Sankalpa. Now, You can use sankalpa to mean that's how the infinite spins its maya. He's using it here more from the viewpoint of sankalpa made in ignorance. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if. Which, by the way, is what keeps the whole human zoo going. 99.99999% of all the people are doing it that way. Any thoughts? Next verse.
Shivam sarvagatam shantam bodhatmakam ajam shubham tadeka bhavanam rama karmatyaga iti smritah. Rama, there is the one reality which is blissful, all-pervading, calm, of the nature of knowledge, unborn, and shining meditation on that alone is considered the renunciation of action.
Shivoham, Shivoham. Shiva and consciousness, unauspiciousness. I'll never forget. There at a camp with Swamiji, and one of the delegates says, Swamiji, when are you coming to Allahabad? He says, I go. Passes from Is that the end of this chapter?
Yeah.
And how many more chapters? One, you said, or two?
There's only one.
All right.
Just 28 verses.
Let's begin the last chapter.
Iti Sri Vasishtha Sangrahe Bhumika Jayo Nama Ekatrimsha Sargaha. Thus ends the 31st chapter titled The Conquest of the Steps of Yoga in the abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha. Trimsha Sargaha. Chapter 32. Granthopa Samharaha. The conclusion of the treatise. Bharadvaja Prabodhanam. The awakening of or knowledge of Bharadvaja. Valmiki Valmiki said, Jnanasaram Vasishtoktam idam akarnyam raghava. Jnanasaram Vasishtoktam idam akarnya raghava muhurtam asid uddhuddha. Muhurtam asid udvuddha Chaitanyananda Sagarah Mahasamanya Rupatvat Chidya Pakataya Sthitah Nakinchit Uche Sampannah Shive Parinitah Pade. Having heard this quintessence of knowledge spoken by Vasishtha, Raghava, who was awakened, was an ocean of bliss consciousness for a muhurta, for a period of 48 minutes, on account of the state of great identity with the self, remaining with the pervasiveness of consciousness. He did not say anything, happy and matured or perfected in the blissed abode of the self.
So we're back to our framing story. Remember that Ram had gone seeing all the world and had come back and was dejected. And Vasishtha said this was not because he needed Prozac, but that this was mature Vairagya. So it's the story of the enlightenment, So at the end of the teaching, Ram's mind thunders to a stop. And here it says he was in samadhi for a muhurta, 48 minutes. But depth of meditation is more important than length. Again, don't chase samadhi. Stay with the question, do you know who you are? And if there are periods where you doubt it, then do tapas. Why do I doubt? Vasana. How do I know I have vasana? Because I forget who I am. Until we have sthita, the fruit of samadhi is unshakable, direct experience. I know who I am. Okay. So Ram's blissed out for 48 minutes and then his mind returns. Let's see what happens. Next verse.
Bharadvaja Uvacha, Bharadvaja said, Aho khalu mahascharyam Ramah prapto mahatpadam katham etadrashi praptihi asmakam muninayaka dushparascha bhavam bodhihi maya cha tiryate katham. It is indeed a great wonder that Rama attained to the great abode of the self just by the teaching of Vasishtha in a matter of a few days. Leader among sages, how does such an attainment come to us? How is the ocean of worldly existence, which is difficult to be crossed over by me?
Yes. So for Ram, his whole sadhana just took a few days because of the relating of Yoga Vasishtha. Now, again, we're getting the abridgment. How long it takes, how short, that all depends on how gross or subtle the mind is. Next verse.
Valmiki said, Ashesham Rama Vrittantah Aditoyo Nirupitah Tam Vicharya Chiya Samyak Paramrishaswayam Punaha. The account of Rama, which has been completely considered from the beginning, examining it well with your intellect, reflect on it again yourself.
So then the injunction is, as Swamiji used to say, will be wise in the text. Swadhyaya. Reflect on it, maybe study it. I've been studying this text. I started in the late 80s with Swami Tejo Mayananda. It's a long time, over 30 years. Great text. The invitation is. So I continue to study. Next verse.
Avidyaya jagadjatam nasti satyam ihanvapi vivechyanti vibuddhaha vivadantya vivekinah nasti bhinnam chitta kinchit swapna pravrittamidam idam jagat. The world is brought into existence from spiritual ignorance. There's not even a little reality here. Learned men discuss about it, the non-discriminating quarrel about it. There is nothing which is different from pure consciousness. This world is an event of dream.
That's funny. They heard people quarrel about it. Wise people discuss about it. Is that what it said?
Learned men discuss, yeah.
All of this is like a dream. And don't forget, we've got macrocosm, microcosm. Your equipment is a character in Ishwara's dream. Yet, it comes about not at us and to us, but as us and through us. Change our view. World appears differently. To the fool, separate from me, misery producing, joy producing. That's the woman of steady wisdom. All is Maya. Seen. Next verse.
Avidya yonayo bhedaha sarvemi buddha iva kshanam udbhuya gachanti jnane kajaladhaulayam. The differences have spiritual ignorance as their origin. All of them rising up for a moment like bubbles are dissolved in the one ocean of knowledge.
So the names and forms arise like the froth on the surface of the ocean. They appear for a moment and then they disappear. But that doesn't mean what's real ever goes anywhere. And again, one of my favorite verses in chapter 2, verse 16, where Krishna plays with these two words, Sat and Bhava. If it exists, that's real existence. It has Bhava, being. You are a conscious being. You are the conscious being. If it has no Bhava, it has no existence. It's just inert imagination. Look to your own direct experience. None of us are children. But if you sit still, don't look at the mirror, I no different than I was when I was a kid. Body's changed, environment has changed, feelings have changed, thoughts have changed. Me, is the same. That's my direct experience. It's my problem. I attribute to myself the qualities of the not-self. Bija Vasana. Deha Vasana. My body. Next verse.
Sakaram bhajatavatvam yavat prasidati nirakare pare tattve tatasthiti akratrima. Akratrima. You resort to that with form until such time the mind is clear or pure. Then there comes the spontaneous avoidance of the supreme or transcendental principle, which is without form.
So we keep this jnana abhyasa going, the practice of knowledge, this discrimination, viveka, this renunciation, vairagya, viewing the ideas that we've covered in the book, until all wrong ideas, self in this world, have been vanished. How will I know that? Doubt no longer rises. How will I know if I know the self, Jim? It's absolutely self-validating. Swallows all down. Mind of the person of steady wisdom is easily able to revel in itself. For the person of just mere book learning, paroksha jnana, it's not available. Next
Kritam purushakarena kevalena chakarmana maheshanugrahadeva praptavyam prapyate naraihi. Enough of human effort and mere action or religious rites. Only by favor or grace of the Supreme Lord or God, that which ought to be obtained is acquired by men.
Yes. So in the end, it is by grace. What's the word he used for grace, Kripa?
Anugraha. Anugraha.
I don't know that. There's a Zen proverb that I like. Enlightenment happens by accident. Zen makes you accident prone. So we have a part. Yoga does not encourage armchair grace. I'm just going to sit here and watch Netflix and enlightenment's going to strike me over the head. But we are impelled into self-effort by grace. We can do no other. It's a worldly parallel. The singers I have known who are successful, 201 that I've met, they say, I have to sing. It's like breathing. It's just something I have to do. And it's different than being famous. So also for those of us who, by God's grace, have supage, auspicious desire, we love this work. But it is work until we no longer need to work. It's a paradox. It's like the ballet dancer learning to do a pirouette. If you've ever been to a beginning modern dance or ballet class and you've watched kids trying to learn to do a turn, the balance is just. So you work and work and work until you find that center. That doing a pirouette is effortless as you turn around that center. Or like riding a bicycle. Do you remember learning how to ride a bike? Till you found how to not do. I think we're back.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Next verse.
Nabhijatyam na charitram nanayo na cha vikramah balavanti puranani nunam karmani kevalam. Neither noble birth nor good conduct nor morality nor also prowess are powerful. Certainly the action done in olden times alone are powerful.
Oh, meaning the incredible power of the force of our karma. So Krishna explains it this way in Gita. When a person dies, you can't take your money with you. You can't take your relationships with you. Can't take anything with you. No furniture, no jewelry. But you do take your yoga with you. You also take all your stupidity with you. That's part of the subtle body that moves, takes up residence in a new shell. So for those for whom sadhana comes quickly and easily, it means that it's lifetimes of intelligent action. Hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes lived intelligently. Mature one, first of all, that we're open to this work. Number two, we come in contact with a person of knowledge. Number three, that person wields a valid pramana, means of knowledge that can deliver this. It's very rare, very lucky to get It's grace. Next verse.
Nalumpati talatasthan Ishvaropyaksharavalin Bodham Punyaparadhinam Labhate Bahujanmabhi. Even God does not take away the row of letters that are written on the forehead. That is, one has to reap the fruits of their former actions. Knowledge is dependent on moral and religious merit. One obtains it after several births.
Yes. So, what are the first two limbs of Raja Yoga? Remember, this text gives equal weight to the path of yoga and the path of jnana, yama and niyama. Many of us go, those are the early two ones. I'm going to go for the high ones. Actually, those first two are incredibly powerful. Five in each. One has to do with our relationship with the world, the other is our inner world. This sets up correct chains of causation. I'm reading this marvelous book called The Eightfold Path, The Noble Eightfold Path. I'm only in the second chapter, but the author, Bhikkhu, what's his last name? I forget.
Bodhi.
Bhikkhu Bodhi, that's right. And he's talking about right view. And the grosser, the lower level of right view is don't mess up your karma. Live a life where you're not hurting yourself and other people. Because you can run, but you can't hide. We do not get what we want. We do not get what we need. We get the inevitable results of the force of our past actions, gross and subtle. Now listen carefully. The force of karma can be blunted by tapas, meaning it doesn't have to be quite so horrendous. And through viveka and vairagya, we live beyond the effects of karma. Went to lunch last week with my friend Susan. And she says, Jim, that shirt is too big for you. It has 3 holes in it and the collar is frayed. You need to toss it, get a new shirt. My favorite red shirt. Gone. Into the trash. If you can look at your life with your successes and failures, joys and sorrows, old shirt. Okay. Then the karma doesn't touch us. Only touches the equipment. Any thoughts on this? So it is important, especially in the beginning. Eventually we'll develop a habit of a life of integrity. But I strongly suggest revisit the yamas and niyamas. They're really good. Next verse.
Jim, this is David. I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
So I see definitely a lot of value in applying that to our own lives. But it's something it strikes me as kind of dangerous to apply that to other people. And
Give me
particularly
an
in terms,
example.
well, I guess if I, see something unfortunate happen to someone and say, oh, well, that they're getting what they deserve. That is, and I guess instead of trying to, I guess intervene or do anything about it.
Nowhere does it say that we should not work hard for justice and endeavor to alleviate the suffering of other people. But that still doesn't deal with the question, why did this person get COVID and have terrible repercussions and another person didn't? If a person gets COVID and they have I have a friend who's got heart trouble. He's only 52 years old from COVID. Now, that doesn't mean he shouldn't go to the doctor. He's got a pacemaker. I have enormous compassion for him. I would do anything I could to help. But why did it happen to him? I had COVID in June, and not me. That's karma. So the understanding of karma does not absolve us from the responsibility of generosity, of compassion. These are part of the yamas and the niyamas. Does that make it a bit clearer?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's good for now.
Karma does not say they're getting what they deserve. Karma is not punishment. If someone is high on LSD and jumps off the roof thinking they can fly, gravity is not punishing them. They're getting the inevitable result of a foolish action. Now, if we spread this over lifetimes, nobody gets away with anything. The vast majority of our iniquitous actions are not done because we like evil. We do it out of deep ignorance. But we should have compassion. That is one of, I think that's one of the yamas and niyamas, isn't it? Certainly implied, if it's not overtly expressed. Do what we can to alleviate the suffering of the world, of course. But once again, we can't really do other people's yoga. And you should never go to another person and say, oh, the reason you're suffering is bad karma. Live with it. That's cruelty. I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form. We can talk about this later if you have more questions. Not that I have all the answers.
No more questions. It's just one thing that just, that just kind of struck a chord with me somehow.
Yeah. But it's so useful on a personal level. I'm never a victim. So I grew up in a family with an alcoholic mother. Why did I have an alcoholic mother and someone else didn't? Who knows what I did in another life? But it does me no good to go through life blaming my mother. See, yoga would say, this was my karma. Now what am I going to do about those wounds? All right, next verse.
अनुमीयेत धीरेषु जीवन्मुक्तेषु कार्यतः त्यज शोकम् अमङ्गल्यं मङ्गलानि विचिन्तय. One can infer this even among the resolute and those liberated while living from their conduct. Give up your grief or lamentation, which is unholy or inauspicious. Think of auspicious or good things.
Yes. So I call it the law of the third eye. It's like the lamp on your bicycle helmet. So when you move your head, the light shines wherever you point your head. Law of the third eye. Whatever I look at, I'm going to think about. What I look at repeatedly, I will think about repeatedly. Repeated thought becomes habituated thought. Habituated thought sinks into the unconscious, becomes the law of my life. So it's so simple and so powerful. Take up the discipline. Turn your attention away from destructive thoughts, which will lead to destructive action. And instead, focus on positive things. Focus on subhaj, auspicious desire. Be part of the solution rather than part of the problem in the world. Does us no good to flame about how terrible the world is on Facebook. Instead, see if you can be kind to a person you meet on the street. Simple stuff. This sets up new chains of causation, which will culminate in the desire for liberation in the end. Next verse. How many more have we got? Will we finish it tonight?
We have 15 or so verses.
We'll do it next week. Okay, let's do a couple more.
Akhinnam kshanamasinah pashya samsara natakam chidananda ghanam swachham atmanam cha vibhavaya evam sthasyasi nityam che tirnosi bhavasagarat. Seated for a moment undetected, look at this drama of worldly existence and contemplate on the self, which is pure and is deep or uninterrupted consciousness bliss. If you remain thus always, you have crossed the ocean of worldly existence.
Yes. Step back. Sakshi Bhava, viewpoint of the witness. Remember who you are. Remember what this world is. Okay, I'm going to quit here. And before we close, Ganesh, can you see if you can find the volume of Panchadashi in the bookcase so I can show it to the people? You may need to turn on the light in the hall to do that. It's pretty thick, paperback. It's kind of greenish. You found it. Yes. So can you guys see this here? This will be our next text. And I will open up. Can you read the edition?
Swami Swahananda,
From the Vedanta Society?
Ramakrishna Math.
Yes. Swahananda. I will send this out on an email. And so we won't start it next week. Do you want to take a week off between classes or go charging right on? What's your pleasure?
Either works.
In Zoomies, how do you feel? Should we start it right away?
That'd be okay with me.
All right, let's do it.
No break for the wicket.
Absolutely. So you should be able to get this on Amazon.
Who is the author, Jim?
Swahananda.
The author is Vidyaranya, but the editor and translator is Swahananda. All right, so when we finish this one, we will start this text. All right, then we'll end early tonight. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.